Hello, I am Maartje van Hengel, and I'm sitting here next to Len Shelley, and there's a story about getting to know Len Shelley. About 2 years ago, I was in a gallery in Brussels, and somewhere I saw a pig's head, and something I don't remember. I was scared to see it. I only remember that everything that of my old perception the whole day changed. I saw stories behind everything, and I was so fascinated by this work that I tried to find this man, and I found him in a cottage in Hastings in the southwest of England, and there I got to know him. Hello, this is Len Shelley, and he is the maker of story boxes, verhaaldozen, and I saw all kinds of stories behind the figures that I saw in that gallery, and I didn't look at them really, but I was really very fascinated by what do the stories mean to you? What kind of stories did you have in mind when you started to make these things?
Well, I've always seen myself as an observer, and the stories behind the boxes are almost a satirical observation of life. I used to make animation films, and the models in the boxes and the sculpture has developed out of making models for filmmaking. But I want to be able to make fun of the way people live and the things that they do. So it is sometimes black and satirical. But I hope it still, people can see the sense of humor in it.
Yeah, well, that's what struck me also, that at one hand I saw, the real, the black side, but also I had to laugh a lot about some boxes, and some gave me a very warm feeling. For instance, Henry Finds Love. Maybe you can show it later, what it's all about. And for me, those figures were, I closed them in my heart, really. How are these figures for you?
Well, I usually identify with the model figures I'm making. Usually the story is something that I identify with from my own childhood, and usually at least one of the figures in each situation is a self-portrait, is how I feel about something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, they all tell a lot about you, I think, and it's. But you have sentences, very strange sentences with the story boxes. Like, for instance, father built me a house, but decided to live in it himself. Yes. Where did you get those sentences?
Well, all the time I'm looking out for phrases in books or overheard pieces of conversation that I can write down and make use of in the future. But father built me a house and decided to live in it himself. This was a phrase in an English Teach Yourself Dutch book from, I think it was from the 1950s. And I like this story because of the psychoanalysis. I mean, if you start to look at it in terms of Freud, the idea of the father shaping the child's life, but then actually the father makes something for the child, but stays in it himself. It amused me. It seemed like a funny idea. So.
And it's your idea. Well, I noticed when showing them to other people that everyone makes its own story. Was that your intention?
Yeah, I'm always happy when people bring their own ideas to the work, and what somebody else's ideas of what it's about is just as good as my idea, and sometimes it is better. So, I mean, I'm happy for whatever interpretation people want to put on it.
And that sounded, they're really figures from an imaginary world. Is that why you made them out of special material? Can you tell me what you made them of and why you did that?
Okay. Well, all the figures are made from small pieces of recycled material, from small pieces of wood I find on the beach in my hometown of Hastings. And so typically the figures have fishes' heads or seabirds' heads, which I've picked up off the beach. And I have always been interested in collecting things, and I collected things until I had no space in my house, and I had to do something with them. So that was when I started to put them together to make art.
Oh, that's great. And I saw that now you are also making different kind of figures outside of a box. Why did you do that?
Well, I began to feel that the boxes were somewhat restraining, and I like to experiment with something a bit larger, and maybe something a little bit more threatening, a little bit more difficult. And for the past couple of years, I've now been making freestanding sculpture using pigs' heads to make pig-headed figures. And I think this is interesting because it raises a lot of questions about the fact that we eat the pigs, that I buy the head from a butcher's shop. And some people find it threatening or difficult, but I hope they can also see it as a humorous figure.
Do you like meat and fishes?
No, I'm a vegetarian. I don't actually eat meat or fish. So when I go in the butcher's shop, it is strictly to buy materials for sculpture.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think it's very nice to go around and see what these boxes are, and also the freestanding figures. There's another box that I find also very nice, with the red one with the big ears. What is this? Is it called?
Well, that is called Hector Wears His Best Ears to the Opera. And one day I had gone to the theatre with my girlfriend, and the gentleman sitting in front of us seemed to have this enormous pair of ears sticking out of his head. And I thought, well, maybe they are strap-on ears. Maybe, when he was getting dressed to go out, he put on these fantastic ears. So I don't know, it's just to make a joke of the way people get dressed up in silly costumes.
Yeah, well, I noticed that, well, there are more boxes that really have a sense of criticism on society or things. There's one box called Guilt Cripples. Is that about the stress society and people who try to do everything in their lives, and what is it for you?
Well, it's I suppose just about the general uphill struggle that we are all sort of on this journey, But in particular, it is obvious. It refers to the legend of drawing up here, Sisyphus, who carries the stones to the top of the mountain, and then it rolls back down to the bottom, and he has to carry it all the way to the top again. But I think that's quite a good analogy for life.
Yeah. Could you say that in the end you have compassion for life or human creatures, or?
Well, I think I like to think that yes, I have a compassionate sort of view of the world, and certainly, I mean, when I'm making fun of people, I don't think it's unpleasant. I hope that it's a gentle prodding in the ribs to wake people up, maybe.
Okay, thank you very much. Or is there anything you would like to?
Well, could explain that the pile of illuminated light boxes here. When I moved into a new studio, I found there were lots of old metal cabinets that I could make use of. And so here we have a selection of pictures from work that I no longer have to make use of the metal cabinets. So very often that is the starting point for my work, is actually finding something, and I think, how can I recycle or make use of this?
Okay, well, I think they are for adults and for children very, very interesting. Do you think there's anything different from how children and adults will look at it?
Well, yes. I mean, I think sometimes my work is referring to for example, the sexual politics between men and women, and it could be that those kind of references would go over the head of a child. And there is one piece of work called The Furniture Factory Representative Dreamt a Pleasant Dream. And one girl ate half an apple and the other girl ate the other half. And obviously that has all kinds of sexual connotations, but for a child it is just a silly story. Yes. with humour. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Len.